Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Hey everybody, welcome to Squirrel. This is Jody.
This is Candace.
And today we are talking about writing betrayals and twists because the Ides of March are roughly around the date when this episode comes out. The Ides of March are technically March 15th.
March 15th?
Yes.
Why?
The dead center of March, because that is when
Julius
Brute happened. Yeah. Julius Caesar and beware the Ides of March, the most famous or infamous backstabbings in all of history.
True.
So
I like Shakespeare, but I don't like Julius Caesar.
It's not one that's super popular.
It's not one that I'm just going to sit down and read.
But this is history we're talking about.
Yes, okay. Right.
Very much. Was there a Shakespeare that was Julius Caesar?
Yes.
I never took a Shakespeare class.
No,
it shows.
Yes, no. Weren't you in acting? I thought you were in acting.
Famously, no. I was stuck in orchestra and choir.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
A lot of orchestra and choir.
Well, yes. Julius Caesar is one of the very most famous plays that he did. He did a lot of history ones, but yeah, that was one that, the whole fringe Roman countryman,
I thought that was like Titus Andronicus. Anyway, this is not a Shakespeare episode, and Candy and I will take that one offline. Talk about that later, because that could be interesting.
That'll be episode.
All right, so today we're diving into the treacherous world of plot twists, trust breaking, and character betrayals. So sharpen your quills. It is about to get stabby.
Ooh, very nice.
So we're going to start off with some famous literary betrayals and kind of why they worked really well. And so I had to go with Edmund from Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
That's a good one.
And this is a betrayal through temptation. Now, Edmund was kind of, I don't know if I can say dick. Can I say dick? It's not one of the capital swear words, so I think
you're fine.
I think we're okay. He doesn't jive well with his siblings. He's kind of like the problem child. He's really grumpy.
He is the middle child.
He's definitely a middle child.
You get the middle child syndrome right there, because
he's got middle kid energy all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, Peter's perfect. He can't compete with Peter.
And Susan's pretty dang good too.
She's a goody-goody.
She is.
So he was really trying to not be his brother, trying to be
wanted to be his own person. Unique. I think he wanted to make his own decisions. And so when the White Witch comes up to him and feeds him Turkish delight.
And if you're thinking about 14, he was about 14. He was
in that figuring
angsty,
out life.
I have a lot of emotions and hormones going through me. So
absolutely. So when he gets tempted by the White Witch in return for luring his siblings into Narnia, he feels like he doesn't really care what happens to them. He just wants more Turkish delight and having someone cool paying attention to him. Again, middle kid energy. So
why would he even think that there was any reason to consider his family?
And she was acting all nice and cozy with him, and he was like, "This is the nicest person ever." So part of it was ignorance. The other part of it was he's being a bit self-serving, where he's doing it because he will benefit, not because they will really get anything out of it. And then he learns later just how big of a problem that was and how many problems that caused.
Yeah. I picked my turn, right?
Yes, I can stop talking now.
I picked Snape from Harry Potter,
which is amazing.
I could not think of that one. So this is a very interesting case of betrayal, I think, because I feel as the audience I was betrayed. Do you feel the same way?
The books really, really wanted you to believe that he was just not good.
I was spoon-fed that he wasn't good, but I trusted him because Dumbledore trusted him. Mm-hmm. And then in 6, when Snape kills Dumbledore, spoiler, Snape kills Dumbledore.
I think the statute of limitations has run out on that one.
Yep, spoiler alert. I felt like I had been led on.
Well, and as watchers and readers, Dumbledore trusted Snape.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So that's when I think of betrayal, who was he actually betraying? When it comes down to it, I mean, this is why it was very well crafted.
Mm-hmm.
This was the idea all along, to spoon feed us this Snape character, and for us to totally, despise him in order to understand his character arc in number 7. So who is he actually betraying? It would be Voldemort. That's who.
Well, yeah, I think the Death Eaters thought that they had this really amazing source inside Hogwarts to be able to get all of this information and be able to be in the right place at the right time to take down their enemy number 1, which just happens to be Harry Potter. Yeah. Like, he was in the perfect place, and then he was the agent of change at the end that made all the difference for the good guys.
Yeah, he was staying and living true to Dumbledore's promise that he made. And he was betraying Voldemort instead.
Which brings us to our next point really beautifully, because I think we need to talk about the difference between when a betrayal comes from someone who's a perceived ally versus someone who's perhaps neutral or we don't know their standing. When it comes to having a main character betrayal, the closer the person is to them that does the betraying, that's going to be our $1 million word for this episode. We're going to say it just a handful more times. So if you're playing a drinking game, stop. So I think the closer the person is, the more that betrayal is really going to hurt, because it is breaking a long-earned trust.
Exactly.
So we had this long-earned trust that Dumbledore trusted Snape. And so when the death happened, it was shocking. Yeah. It was an emotional gut punch, really. And then we learn later why. And then it's like, oh my gosh.
Now he's like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, Snape's one of the heroes.
He's one of the coolest characters in the entire series because of it.
Yeah, you get a different perspective of everything that Snape's done. Actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the real sting of betrayal, is being betrayed by someone you trust.
I absolutely love that you have a Star Trek quote.
Yes, well, I have remembered this since I watched Next Generation. But Worf says trust should be earned, not given away. And I have kept that locked in my brain for so many years, 20 or 30 years since I've watched that. When we invest in someone else and we trust in them, for them to betray us like that, it's a gut punch. Mm-hmm. It is, I no longer have solid feet on the ground. My world is shaken, because now who are you going to trust? You don't have any guidelines when you had all of your eggs in this basket, and now you don't have any anywhere, So here you, as the reader, have grown trust with this character. And when someone who you feel knows you enough to trust, meaning opening your heart and all the truths and all the promises, and they take that information and they use it against you, I think is just so selfish. It's super bitter to come to that unbelievable conclusion that someone, how dare you, you did this to me, type of thing. Sure. So the point 3 that in this episode that Jody crafted is crafting a convincing betrayer. What did you put in this?
So I wanted to talk about what motivates someone who ends up betraying someone else. And so there's a couple different aspects of motivation that I was able to pin down. And so the first one, I mean, this has got like main character and protagging energy written all over it, but it is thinking that what they are doing is for the greater good, even if it's misguided. What they think that what they're doing is right. And this is also like when we talk about villains, like they don't think they're bad. They think that they are doing something
like
that
Thanos.
is right.
We talked about this.
Yeah, we've brought this up a few times.
Yeah.
So
go revisit those episodes, everyone.
They are
about
good.
Villains.
Trying to do something where they believe there's going to be a greater benefit. It might mean that there's also a lot of bad things that happen along with it, but they feel that the benefit's going to outweigh that.
Gotcha.
The second motivational point is that they feel like they have no choice or something worse will happen if they don't. So a lot of this can be like, and this is one of those things that come up that we absolutely hate at my house, where it's the, I'm going to tell you I hate you in order to protect you, to make you fall out of love with me and go away so that I can go fight the demon or whatever.
Okay.
Like this comes up in movies and shows all the time where a committed couple, like it's usually the guy telling the girl, I suddenly hate you.
Yes.
In more eloquent terms than that.
Yes.
And it's to get her to go away so she's away from the danger. And that's a betrayal to her because she doesn't understand why he would all of a sudden flip-flop like that. He feels like something worse will happen if he doesn't.
Yeah.
And it might, but he just took away her free agency and I hate it. So
Something is almost coming to mind, like a story plot that has that. Maybe it was a book that I just read, or I don't remember.
it comes up quite often
It
in
does.
different flavors, depending on the genre. Sometimes like why will be different, but it's one of the things I can't stand. Like it's a cheap betrayal. So, and then the last motivational point that I could think of is that they have been promised something that they desperately want that they feel they can't get any other way. It is the at what cost conversation.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have a really good example for this, but it's like if they need to achieve like the item of the quest, in order to get that item of the quest, like they have to murder one of their friends or something, but the item lets them do something bigger and more important. So they have to do something unspeakable in order to get
trade
it.
off.
It's
We'll
a
let you
trade
do
off.
this, but you have to sell your friends to make this happen.
Yeah.
Okay. What I think makes a good betrayal is the selfishness behind the why. And I think you hit that in the very first thing about the selfishness. But consequences should go both ways. There needs to be something the betrayer has lost that is bigger than something gained. Not only the loss of this friendship and trust, but dignity and realization of the damage that can never be truly repaired. That was one of the things that I really, that when I think about a convincing betrayer, it's that selfishness and the you can't repair this.
Although in that person's mind, they're probably not thinking they're being a really big betrayer. They probably feel like they're doing some massive thing of self-sacrifice. I'm giving up so much in order to get this one thing. I'm giving up my family. I'm giving up a loved one. I'm giving up some very valuable thing. Like it feels like it could be interpreted as a self-sacrifice depending on who's doing it.
Yeah. And then there's the big rescue at the end, right? I'm
Yes.
going to do this. I've changed my ways. I'm alone. No.
But actually, I'm supposed
No
to be
longer
this
God.
guy.
Cool. You have betrayal in different genres.
Yes, because I feel that different genres will take different angles when it comes to their betrayal storyline.
Okay.
And so you made a really good note about how we can see betrayal in the romance genre.
Oh, yeah. It is an easy one to see betrayal through romance because often is part of the relationship. And depending on what relationship you are leaning toward, it might be the one you're rooting for, actually. It's how, as a writer, you're guiding the reader. So I read One Day in December, which I love, honestly, but you are, the very first scene, you are introduced to these two people that see each other. One's on a bus and one's at a bus stop, and they feel this connection. And that's the love story that you're introduced to in the very first chapter. So that's one you're really in, that you want. But then in the next chapter, the story is actually the guy starts dating this girl's roommate. And that's where the betrayal comes. She doesn't admit that this is the guy that she's been searching for. This isn't, that she's been in love with for a whole year before, this girl started dating him. And then there is a lot of lies between this relationship back and forth between the guy and the girl. But yet I am still rooting for their connection to happen, even though they're dating other people. So I just find it really interesting as the reader, you will still be rooting for that first couple, but it becomes harder as the book evolves in the different situations that could lead down very dangerous paths of betrayal, which then you don't want to like anybody, when it gets to, well, for me, when it gets just too crossing lines, betrayal, I can't root for that kind of relationship,
And this is why I don't read as much romance as I read other genres. Because the interpersonal drama like that is just like, I don't know if I take it like too much. I internalize it too much. And it's just like, everybody is awful. Mm-hmm. Or if I just don't relate as much. But I think all betrayals and romances are going to be interpersonal, like
they're all
between a relationship or a committed couple or someone who wishes to become more committed or some amazing triangle. I mean, romance.
I don't even know. Yeah.
All, no holds barred. I would like to talk about common betrayals that we see in fantasy because
that's our genre.
I have an entire book called Stonebearer's Betrayal. So, yeah.
How does that happen?
Might have thought about this a little bit. So there are three big kinds of betrayal that you'll see. And the first one, and these are a little bit tropey, but they do come up quite often. So we have the trusted mentor betrayal, where the mentor turns out that they've been manipulating the protagonist all along, leading them to think that maybe they're the chosen one when they're not, or they are supposed to be doing some great thing when they're not. I think sci-fi can have similar roots. Remember in Ender's Game, where they lead him all the way along that this is a game, this is just learning, they're not doing anything real. And at the very, very end, this is going to be the spoiler episode. When he defeats the big bad, he doesn't know that it's real. Mm-hmm. Until afterwards. And they say, and the mentor, and it's his mentor that tells him, congratulations, you ended the war. Yeah. That was real. I mean, like, shivery betrayal, but it was such a good one because you saw it all along, because the way that they planted those seeds of information, you knew both sides, which made it even juicier.
Yeah.
Horrible, but juicy. The next common betrayal is going to be the prophecy betrayal. So your character that was destined for greatness learns it's a lie, learns that it was made up and that they were never the chosen one, or that the prophecy was made up because there's another force trying to get to a different end for their benefit. And so they've planted the idea of this prophecy that's not really true.
I was thinking you mentioned something and it brought Truman Show.
Oh yeah, to my big lie.
Yeah, very. I mean,
he is the main character of his
the
own story,
one, I
but
guess,
he doesn't know that he's just a puppet the whole time. And then the last one is pretty common when it comes to anything where politics comes into play, and a lot of fantasy will have a political undertone to it as part of the world building. But when you have allies that turn into enemies at the worst possible moment. Like, I'm with you, I'll support you, my army will come and save you, ha ha ha. No, they won't.
Yeah, just kidding. I'm actually with this baddie over here.
Yeah, like I will just let your armies go get massacred because that was my goal all along. Or a trusted advisor giving the wrong advice at the wrong time. I think we do see that quite often. Yeah. So those are fun ones to play with, and you can always twist the idea around for your own fiendish designs.
Cool. Okay. Betrayal as a catalyst for character growth.
So I was thinking about this in terms of if a betrayal is forgivable or unforgivable and where a character goes after they've been betrayed. And so first talking about forgivable betrayals. So if the betrayer was a friend who perhaps withheld important information in order to protect the MC, the main character, like his motives were good. His method was bad, but he wasn't doing it to hurt someone. He was doing it to try to protect someone by not telling the right information. I feel that's very forgivable. This goes back to the romance betrayal, but a love interest who broke a promise to their partner out of a fear of something or a misunderstanding of something. Like, they're not doing it to be mean. They're not doing it because they're being hateful or trying to hurt. They're doing it because they're scared of something worse or that they misunderstood something going on. I feel that that's very forgivable. In fact, that gives that character so much room for growth to be able to be forgiven. So the person who was betrayed gets to give forgiveness, which shows a lot of growth for them. It shows a lot of character development for them. And the betrayee being able to accept the forgiveness and move on without the guilt or still having the guilt. I mean, the guilt will be there.
Yeah. I think when it comes to like the catalyst, you're right, completely. That is if you're looking at the story arc, that is going to be the biggest moment of change. When you understand that betray happened and the character has to learn from that point on. So you've learned these lessons and you're learning to trust again, just like you were saying. And sometimes your characters, just like us humans, need to face things like this to understand themselves better, to see the other sides of things that you would have never seen or experienced without understanding what that hurt feels like. So that's what's really great about that catalyst is learning and experiencing what you wouldn't have experienced before if that wouldn't have happened.
So in a nutshell, a forgivable betrayal is something that was done with good intentions. An unforgivable betrayal is something done with not good intentions. Intentionally causing harm or being selfish or showing no remorse for having done so, I feel that's very unforgivable. Like, it would feel out of place for that person to seek forgiveness and receive it. Did I make this mistake in my book 3? Absolutely. The big bad, I gave her a happy ending. I gave her a redemption arc that she didn't deserve. And I got called on it big time by my really nice editor who's like, come to my house, I will feed you chocolate and tell you how you messed up. Perfect. I know that's bad.
First, eat up. Keep it in front of you.
It's just like if you're going to face a Dementor, here's your chocolate. So if you have an unredeemable character, someone who does not deserve it, and you give it to them, your reader's going to throw the book across the room.
Yeah. So how do you...
It's betraying the reader at that point.
Yes, exactly. So
Absolutely.
How would you write the aftermath of a betrayal?
One of the classes I teach at Writing Conference is the grief cycle. And when I was reading through this, my immediate reaction to that is going to be this first part of the grief cycle. Like, if you have been betrayed, and to remember the grief cycle, you need to remember the acronym DABDA. So it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, DABDA, or just the characters of Inside Out. They're literally the grief cycle. It is awesome. All right. So your first reaction, and most people's first reaction when one of these just gut-wrenching betrayals is going to be no. It's going to be a denial. It's going to be like, I can't believe this is happening. We see Dumbledore topple from the tower and we're like, no, he's not allowed to die. He's this really important character. And then the second thing is you're angry, you're mad. You're like, why? And you want things to change. And that's where, like with bargaining, that one is confusing, but usually it is trying to change the situation when you can't.
Yeah.
It is this trying to just to finagle and mess things, not mess things up. Finagle. Yes.
Finagle.
Finagle is a word that exists. So, and so those initial moments of a betrayal are going to be this kind of shock and anger and disbelief. But then you go the long term of betrayal, which I believe you cover quite nicely.
Just the perspective and acceptance of this new world that you're in. Where do we go from here? So now that your characters are in this different world and have this different side of themselves, how do they trust? How do they heal? How do they move on and just take one step at a time, right? There's also needs to be the forgiveness, as you said, like that's the acceptance part. But it's tricky, I think, because you as the author need to leave the audience in a safe space, I think. And if you don't, there is going to be unresolved feelings that just to the characters that you for you as the author, I can often think of times in my own reading when I can think, how could she do that? You know, to blame it on the author, not specifically the character. It happens all the time. So healing is important in the aftermath of this whole betrayal. It needs to happen, and it needs to be, you need to leave them in a safe space in the aftermath of that. So there you go.
I think this was a really interesting discussion.
It really was.
I kind of liked that. So I think no matter where a betrayal comes from, whether it's the bad guy, although you kind of expect it from the bad guy, so it's not really a betrayal. So if somebody you trust does something that's
all
like,
of a sudden
whoa,
becomes the bad guy.
Like, it is a really great way to keep a story exciting and to keep readers guessing. I really hope that y'all enjoyed our discussion on how to rate Betrayal, that help you find new ways to keep your story interesting. So I do have a listener assignment. I want you to consider your current work in progress, and I want you to find a character who is very loyal to your MC. You can choose who that is, and you probably have someone that comes to mind. And I want you to write a test scene where they do something to betray the main character, and just see how it changes things and what ideas it generates for you. Because I think you could have a lot of fun with it.
That is a very interesting challenge. I may take you up on this, because all of a sudden I'm like, I know the character that needs exercise needs to happen too. So that's really fun.
I think it'll be a good one. Tell us all about our next episode.
Well, it's Women's History Month. And so I thought we'd talk about some women's history when it comes to novels and people that we've had admired. When it comes to females writing books. Yeah, that's it.
All right. We will celebrate our favorite women authors. I love it.
Yep.
All right. A huge thank you all for listening today. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, if you've learned something new, if you're going to share this with a friend, please do. That's amazing. Remember, we have a Patreon. We also have a Buy Us a Coffee. Our flavor of Buy Us a Coffee is please buy us books, because we like books.
I love digesting words.
Yes, we do. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe.
Thanks, y'all.
This has been fun. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
Ides of March. All right, so
What
today,
does Ides mean? What
that's
does that
an
mean?
amazing question. I would have to look that up. No clue.
Okay, just answer in our comments section, please, everybody.
If you know.
Okay.